All right, guys, I got here just in time. If you're joining me, that's pretty amazing. I don't think anyone's here, but we do have our ticker XPON in the sell side imbalance of 760. All right, we actually have a debut here. I'm going to hustle. I like this setup a little bit. So an IPO that's actually pricing above the IPO debut or above the IPO price. Let's see if I can hustle and get my order in here. Just going to take a starter, really. Buy shares, $8. 20 power view. Okay. All right. Let me send out a quick little link here. All right, we're gonna get more than this. So this looks like it might run, guys. We've got something brewing here. Where is my channel? Here it is. All right. Hey guys, all right, XPON just went live. I'm gonna switch over there. Let me share my screen because we are trading. Okay, we didn't get much of it. Didn't get to see much of that there. XPON, what's it doing? What's it doing? All right, a little bit of a dip out the gate here. All right, not seeing that spike that we wanted. So looks like it opened at 790. Not great there, but it's dipped a bit. May have gotten overexcited there. Oh well. Let's see what this does. Back just in time to enter a trade at the debut. Yeah, gonna hold Monday too. Unless we get a spike here. Spike here. Can add a bit as well. Okay, so a little bit of an open and then drop. Let me try to get the ticker over here onto the screen so we're watching the share screen. We're going to watch this, share it. All right, and now we are watching EXPON. The company is a lithium-ion battery play. It looks like it has dipped out of the open. There was an opening trade of 260,000 shares in the first minute, 148 in the second. These are looks like a lot of sellers still. So we're looking for these sellers to drop out a little bit. So far we are not a catastrophic dip. This is still the IPO is at 7. IPO sellers are not dumping at this point, so people won't fill. Oh well, that's not good. If trading desks aren't working, I kind of just flew into this one maybe a little prematurely, but if we can bottom out a little bit, we could reverse. So let's hold out and hope for a little bit here. Here comes some volume coming in. This is what we like to see. And I'll also tweet this out there. Gotta promote, didn't have much time to do it. Live trading the EXPON IPO debut right now. Boom. All right, this is kind of coming back, looking better than most of the other ones we've seen. And Okay, we're kind of hanging out just under the debut price. So if you scaled in, congratulations, you're in a better position than I am. We are seeing some pretty healthy volume early. I like that for a runner, day one runner. I want to see this kind of reach that 1 million shares pretty fast. The free float is 2.15, and there were not warrants on this, so we don't have to worry about warrant strike prices or anything like that, as I understand it. Let me just triple check that. Yeah, XPON, W. I'm not talking about overwriter. It's just no warrants that I got. I got some of this on the allocation request. I requested what would have been 74 shares if I'd gotten a full request, a full fill, and instead I got 24 shares. So, not overwhelming allocations, just a which shows that they weren't just trying to give it away to everybody that asked, and also means that each person dumping at 7 is not going to necessarily destroy this. So would like to see it a little bit more conservative. I love it when I see them only give out 5 or 10 shares on the allocation. When they give out more than that, it's a little bit more of a maybe. But I think you're going to see people trying to accumulate for the day 2 run. We did not see that, at least not so far, with our VSN. Kind of saw that at the end of the day yesterday, that at the end of the day there just wasn't enough. It just hadn't dipped far enough. There was too much volume. I think that the day 2 trade on that was kind of got played out, and that was that. My mouse is not working, so I have to use my touchpad, which I hate doing. That's why I'm fiddling with my mouse here. So not a super strong open, still kind of hanging out below the debut price. Could go either way. See if people jump into this or not. Love it if we got some kind of a rip. We are at 800,000 shares. Once we reach that halfway mark, we should see a move one way or another. A lot of times you'll see these go to the full float, and that's kind of when the play starts getting played out for whatever reason. So let's watch this for a bit. Get a little bit of movement up here. I'm hoping we get some kind of run at some point here. That's what we're looking for. All right, the mouse is back in action. Mr. Mouse, the right-hand man. Back to 790, and it can break out. Alrighty here, folks. I'm going to go back and see what y'all are saying. Put some things in their places. Where's the StreamYard feed? So I can see who's asking me what. All right, there we go. I'm on it. There's a lag because we're on the highway. Hey, Matt, hoping to get us the dip on consolidation. Always a good play in this market. However, I'm not sure what kind of consolidation we will. Should check. Okay. Let's go back to exiting the full screen. Getting kind of a curl up. This could break out. I don't know how much I've been. My hope, and this is where I get a little bit mistrusting of my own intuition, is when I want something to run, not because I'm in it, just because I want to see an IPO finally give us some hope that there is still a debut trade on some of these. But this one's kind of hanging out here, and looking at the level 2, I see that the sell walls have come down. Buyers are kind of picking off their, what I call, this is pretty typical for what I see people building a position. They're building a position at 2 levels, at 765, 760, kind of small levels. Really not the float on the sellers has sort of dried up here. I think until we get towards 8, I mean, I'd really like to see a run here at some point. Okay, got the normal number of watchers here, guys. All right, we got Allie. Wish you could join the live stream, fill in some of my dead talk, but we didn't get too much. I got here literally 4 minutes here, so there comes the breakout, guys. All right, run, baby, run. All right, I did get some. I got a little allocation here that I like to sell my. This is in my daughter's. Trading account, kind of. I call it her 819. All right, we got a breakout. This could halt. All right. If we get a halt, I'm going to sell. I think we got halted. Yeah. Halt, baby. Nice. So we finally got an IPO that ran. And I said on Monday in the show that we're due for one that will run. And I said I thought it would be this one. And it feels good to be right, especially when you're making money from it. So if you want to play this ultra safe, what I do, for example, in my daughter's account, I always play things really, really safe. And it tends to be, I'm considering playing my other account this way more too. Then again, the wins I take on her account are more muted, where I, from time to time, do something sort of paradigm changing in my account with the wins. Done it once with the loss, so the wins still far outpace the loss. But if you want to get out of the halt, it's not a bad play to just lock in your win. If you got in even at the debut at 790, I don't have the tools. Maybe somebody else does. That there is I think it's trade zero, allows us to really get an accurate sense of what not just the high bid, but what is the the trade the share imbalance on these halts, and that is really an information that I'd love to have, because the way I play this, just to be ultra conservative, I'm going to set a limit order to sell at like $8. And you're going to get filled at anything above that. And since these are the shares that I was allocated at $7, it's not a big win one way or another. But I'm ready to bag my profit. What will happen is that as long as it opens above $8, which it seems like it, 9 times out of 10, an IPO debut will do that. So I'm going to confirm the sale. I'm going to wait for that. Another strategy that's not a bad idea is to shave your position down a little bit. And you get this first halt. I think this has room to run a bit more. But once you get your first halt, it's not a bad call to take some money off the table, pay yourself a little bit. So I think just in terms of maintaining my adhering to some rules, I'm going to take a little bit of my initial buy off the table, and make sure you pay attention. It's really easy to get flustered when you're trading IPOs. They move at a very different speed than a lot of other kind of day trading stocks. So, I mean, yes, day trading stocks, when they're the low float play on the table, can move in a very volatile pace. IPO stocks will move, especially something that's, once it's caught speed, I mean, it moves like nothing else, and it's easy to, you've already been waiting all day for it to go live, and your blood gets pumping, your concentration, it's harder to make decisions. It's that much more important to have a bit of a game plan in place. And when you get into these, it's good to stick to your rules, because you start thinking with a different part of your brain once you're engaged in these, in seeing the price fly one way or another. And I just try to stick to some rules, partly just to condition my brain to be ready to act this way for the next trade. It's kind of like, conditioning yourself to trade according to your rules. And one of the rules that I have is to take profits, or I have 2 rules. One is to take profits without regret. So if you get out early and it rips a bit more, okay, great. The other rule I have is don't chase. So if you're not in this already, it's a pretty dangerous move at this point to try to chase it, to try to buy in out of the halt. It's probably not the most dangerous move. I believe this has quite a bit of sailing room to it. It's an IPO that's already running. We haven't seen this, but we haven't really seen an IPO break into 2 halts for quite a while. So maybe we're due for one. This is certainly the kind of setup that can go 2 halts, but it's also risky. I mean, right now, if you caught the bottom, if you scaled in, maybe your average cost is now 740 or 750. You're up a buck, and you're probably going to get a $1.50 out of the halt. So, don't go turning wins into losses. And these can halt both ways. These, especially if it halts a few up, it's going to halt back down. And these and halts, you can't. There's nothing you do with a stop loss. You can't go, okay, so it's opening again. It's moving up. It's it's touching 920. If it gets through that 920 level, it looks like it's going to go again. So you got to start thinking in terms of big numbers too. So I'm probably, just because I'm trying to keep cash in pocket, I'm probably going to say, all right, well, if this gets towards 10, that's a big number that people like to sell at. So if I'm going to kind of play this somewhat conservatively, I'm just trying to be smart with my money these days. I'm not in a position to. So if this does halt, it's going to be. But I'm thinking like, okay, 10. People are probably going to be selling towards 10. A lot of people start setting their orders there, or it'll reverse off 10. So I like to try to get out right before that, maybe get back in. I'm going to go ahead and take profits at 10. I'm going to usually like put it my order a little bit under there. But this can come back down pretty quickly. So like I said, the action moves in both directions. You might want to put a stop loss in under 9, say at 905, because if it doesn't, if it doesn't run and it drops back down, if we start seeing this level off, starting to keep moving. I mean, I didn't see any other big movers today. I know that, so this could have a second leg up. I tend to see these as having 2 legs up. The first leg up was the first halt. And this one has not had its second kind of spike yet, but it is kind of starting to look like people are taking some profit. We hit that 2 million shares. That's often a kind of a point at which the momentum starts to die down. So I might put my stop loss here in at, damn, I was a little bit too late. Trailing stop might have been the better play there once it didn't break out, but this is still early in the game. I took some profit off the table already, and we haven't seen that second leg up yet. This isn't hugely over the IPO price or the debut price. So if this becomes the kind of day trade of the day for people, then we might still have some room to run. I've said this many times that VWAP, which is this yellow line, I'm actually going to take the other one off because there's no point in seeing the moving average right now. But VWAP becomes the sort of North Star. And if it breaks down off of VWAP, I'm going to set a stop loss here at 795 just because that preserves a win. And it's a small win. It's not as like fun as would have been to get out at 950, which might have been the better place. But I don't want to lose money on this. I'm up. I'm up a bit, and there's no reason to be all bummed out. It's Friday. I don't want to take a loss or have another bag. So here we got the halt down. This is something that, and I didn't get stopped out, which this is the kind of scary position where, yes, I do lament not having been faster in getting. I tried to put a stop loss right around when it was kind of up around here. I tried to get my stop loss under 9, which would have been a nice little exit. Now we're in a halt, and it could really reverse either way. We don't know. If I were to bet on it, I would say that I'm going to go ahead and cancel my stop loss now because I want to let this ride out a little bit. I still think it's pretty early. I think that this is just going to start getting attention. People who watch to play stop losses, there are resources like the NASDAQtrader.com halt list, and now we've got XPON on it twice. So that'll bring a bunch of day traders into watching this. It's not grossly overpriced, at the moment. And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this was able to break 10 today. But yeah, I will be a little bit kind of frustrated with myself if I end up having to bag hold this. It does have a day 2 potential run, but I would have liked to have gotten out with the stop loss there at 895. To be honest, I just was slow in getting back over to getting my order in. It was probably, woohoo Friday, yeah. Fridays, especially these IPOs, have made my weekends amazing at times, and also put me in kind of a forcing myself to have a good mood rather than just being in a good mood. Other stocks moving today, we got following a little bit, borrowing from what Allie, Fit Girl, was saying over in her room. GFI getting pumped. HTCR is up 18% today. It's been moving. That's an IPO that's been in a bit of a funk, and as I've pointed out before, Bosted does a lot of deals that rip. I can hardly remember a deal that didn't at some point either get super close to double digits or break double digits, and HTCR just never got its run. That day 2 jump up to, I think it was like 6 something. Yeah, 619 is its all-time high. That really doesn't count. That was kind of when day 2 runs were day 2 runs and nothing that Bosted did. But that IPO is not looking good on their track record, and they supposedly are trying to do something about it, and this might be the early stages of that. There's no serious news on this, so it could be just some front running. But that one is running, and I'm glad, because I'm a little bit not so bad right now, but I did sell out some of my position for a win today on that in my smaller account, but in my bigger account, I'm still bag holding it. So looking for that one to run. Just making some notes here, what we talked about today. So yesterday we saw RVSN, and I'm going to go to the split view for a minute here while we wait in the halt. And RVSN, we were hoping would do a day 2 run, and it didn't. And we kind of saw that coming, because the trend had been that these would drop on the debut, kind of rebound a little bit, and then just fall off into the close. And if this had closed down at, say, 220 or 240, and the volume had only been wow, and look at what the float did, and the volume had been a million or 1.5 million shares, not even something small. Instead, we got a volume higher than the float, and we can see today that it just couldn't break out. Two things happened, I believe. I believe that people got hip to the game and started saying, "Oh, it'll run on day 2." They all run on day 2. Once that word is out on a play, oh, it'll de-SPAC. All the de-SPACs run. Once that word gets out, it kind of spoils the trade, because people start, all right, we got to switch back to XPON. So XPON looks like it's gaining a little bit momentum again. I am going to manage this trade. It's running a bit. We've got the level 2 support. I do not want to take a loss. That is the number 1 priority here for me. So I'm looking at the level 2 orders. I'm seeing 830, a little bit of support there, but dropping. I'm going to go to a stop loss at 820. And actually, I'm going to change that because I see that order at 840. I'm going to go 835. 35. I'm going to preview that. I'm going to lock that in. And now I'm locked in and waiting for it to run. While I do that, I'm going to adjust my stop loss a little. If I see, okay, 870, I like that. Now I can bump it up to 865. 865, I got my stop in. pumping it, locking it in. It breaks 9, wait for some resistance to come. I'm changing it again. Once it breaks 9, I hope there we get some support there at 9, reversing a little bit. If we get some support at 9, then I can bump my stop loss to 895, back where I wanted to get out. I would have already been out. I can see 9. We got an order there. I can change my stop loss to 895. Keeps running, doesn't run. 895, I'll be out. If it keeps running up a little bit higher, doesn't seem to be able to break 9. Okay, I'm stopped out. Cool. Sold out of my whole position. Got out at 9, 895, and 893. So, that's the trade for me. Does it keep running? I really hope so. That seems like we only got one leg up. This is kind of a second leg up. One thing we want to look at is like, and this is where didn't have as much time to do the research as I would like to, but RVSN clearly that once it was up, each time it kind of approached 3, it just got sold off. And then we look over here at the float. The float went from 1.97 million shares sold, and now the float is at 18 million. I mean, that means that whatever underwriter allocations, locked up shares, they flooded the float, and that's why this didn't run today. So I looked at this at the end of the day and saw, okay, well, I had loaded up to an average of, I think it was, I got in at around 260. Oh no, I was in around 260, 250. And then when it gave me 3 at the end of the day, I got a little bit stuck because E-Trade doesn't cancel your good for day trades for like 5 minutes or something after the market closes. So, but as soon as it let me out, I set my exit for 295, and I just got lucky that it did come and get me out here. But my feeling was that the day 2 run had sort of been played out by the time we saw, what was the one we saw before that was last week's, I think it was LCFY, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, Locify. So Locify on day 1 gave us this, it's kind of the last, it did the day 2 run, but it was a little bit weird. It was kind of like, instead of just trailing off from it bottomed, it did the normal initial setup, but I think everybody started going, oh, it'll run on day 2. Yeah, for sure. So people started buying in. It sent it into one spike that got sold off. Again, people were like, oh yeah, for sure, day 2 to the moon. And that brought it back up, and that's not the chart we're looking for. And the volume was, like I said, higher than the float. When I see that, that's not the day 2 run setup. The day 2 run setup has been things that, there's a ticker, a problem with the ticker on some exchanges, or there was I remember one of them that did run was Nightscope, and like it had debuted higher than the IPO, but everybody just sold off, and it wasn't available on a bunch of platforms like Wearable. It wasn't tradable, and it just fell off, and the volume really showed it. It was something. Let's take a look. KSCP. What was it? KSCP, right? Okay, nice. So if we look at the daily volume on day 1, I mean, you should have a lot of volume on the day that a stock IPOs if a lot of people are trading it. The volume on Nightscope, I think it was a 4 million share float, was only 1.6 million shares. Now let's look at XPON. The volume has already exceeded the float. That's more normal for what we see on IPO debuts. So when I see something drop hard on low volume with a low float to begin with, that's the day 2 setup. That's what we've seen. I mean, you look at Aconda, another one that debuted super high. So, buyers bought in, but the volume on day 1 was only 1.3 million. And the float, I believe, when it debuted was 4 million shares. So, I see a day 1 volume that's less than the total float on a low float IPO to begin with, that that results in a drop. Those are the kind of plays where you can accumulate and then hope for a run the next day. And we just didn't see that with LCFY. And since we didn't see it with LCFY, or we did see it with LCFY, but not as much as we've seen as some of the others. I mean, it topped out at 450. That's not a huge run. That's a nice run, but it also dipped before it gave us that run. XPON is breaking out again. This does look like it could break over 10 at some point today. My guess is that pumpers and day traders are going to, bring some attention to this. This is an ideal setup to have accumulated on the drop off. I mean, there was quite a few shares picked up here. It did sell, get oversold off here, but now it's rallying. And I remember we saw, I believe it was the only other one that we've really seen run this year was our. Oh no, I don't want to take this one away. Sorry. I'll take LCFY away. Our was I think it was the first IPO of the year, and incidentally, it just popped in the last few minutes. I don't know why. Heard me talking about it? Doubt it. I don't think I have any influence on the market particularly. All right, but we saw it opened at 450. It did dip a tiny bit, I believe, and then ran to 1030. Started low, reached 10. This one already, the only thing I didn't like about XPON was that they, so it would have been really nice if they had opened this at, sold the IPOs for the shares for like $4 or $5 a share, even double the float, make the same amount of money. But when it starts at 9 and it's this company does lithium ion batteries. If you really think about the business model, which our good friend Ali will advise you, just know the tickers and the numbers and forget about the whatever's really behind the crapco, as I like to say, shitco, as she likes to say. But this, they do lithium ion batteries, and lithium is about to be in really short supply, or already is in pretty short supply. So we saw the lithium plays go earlier this week. One of the main ones was LITM. That is a recent IPO. So this is where having that mental index of the recent IPOs in an industry is really kind of helpful for your trading, especially if you're kind of focused on IPOs. Because as soon as that news dropped, and LAC, which is kind of the big lithium America, whatever, lithium Amers. This is a huge company with a $5 billion market cap. But this one really ran off that news. And there's that big green candle. It was on Wednesday when the news dropped that Biden or the government is going to prioritize mining rare earth minerals. So LAC popped. Along with that is any other lithium miner, and a recent IPO is has all the ingredients for a big run. I mean, it went on a 25% jump that day. And why? Well, it's got a super low float. It had already been kind of, it sold off with the rest of the market in the crash, as the low float kind of crap goes will. Came back a little bit with the rebound. We getting a run in XPON. This looks like it wants to go into another halt, possibly. I always expect 2 runs on these. I don't know if that kind of rebound counts, but we very well could see this continue to rip for a while because sellers are out. You see this consolidation. You had people sort of rotate their positions. You had a fresh group of buyers here. I would say a fresh group of buyers right in this zone here, and they're looking for that run. This run is gonna top. It's gonna probably see some resistance at 10. This is where a 995 out would be a good call. And there you just would have taken it and broke through 10. This could touch halt again. Checking out. Thanks. There's more. You're ready. All right. It was great. All right. Just checking what your guys' comments are here. But yeah, lithium was another play. But I mean, the reality is that this is a very small company. They had great, numbers, but that's like basically comparing a company from its first year where it was just sort of starting out to, a company that, and then like really hit their stride in a year. This company sells lithium ion batteries to RV and boat owners. Well, a lot of people bought recreational vehicles last year because of COVID lockdown. They said, okay, well, if I can't travel, if I can't fly and I can't stay in hotels, well, I'll buy an RV. And RV sales went through the roof. And what are they going to power them with? Well, they're going to need batteries for, instead of using NiCad or whatever the other ones were, this company had a better product ready for the market, and they caught that windfall. So their numbers look great right now, but are they going to have supply chain issues? Are they going to have problems meeting order demand? Is this company really worthy of having a 70 or 65, $70 million market cap? I don't know. I doubt it. My guess is that this really is worth about $5 or $6 a share, which is why it's so important to take profits on these plays, guys. Take your take your profits and be happy. Do not change the order. I already placed the order, right? Executed. Yeah. Okay. Good. I got out. Whatever. I'm not going to have any regrets on this one. This was a good one. But if I were to quickly sort of calculate what I took on this, it was that first halt opened at 880. So I could just yeah. So, over $500 on a very, in my opinion, low risk trade feels good. And I hope everybody else makes even more. Back to thoughts, and let's take a look at HTCR. So once this upward move starts leveling out a little bit, this is a good indication to possibly start inching in with getting your stop loss in. Got a little buy there at 1074, so 1060, 1065. That sounds like a pretty good entry, but I don't know. This thing's got legs right now. It is oversold. I'll be looking at RSI. I'll be looking at 11. At some point, you definitely want to be considering the fact that you're getting greedy if you keep holding. And again, we've doubled the float now. This is into high flying territory. Got 17 people watching here. Really? No chasing. No chasing. This is not the time to buy in. Rule number 2: don't chase. If you're a day trader and you saw this VWAP entry, that was a good time to buy in. If you bought in on the debut because you like to play the debut trade, that was a good time to buy in. If you laddered yourself into a position here, that was an excellent time to get in. Now is not the time that I would be buying in. Now you're up. You got a stock that's up 50% off the IPO price. Here we see it's coming back down. VWAP is way down here at 90, which means the average price that everybody's bought shares at today is just under $9. People are green right now. A lot of people are green. Once these people start feeling that they've seen enough, or that it's going to reverse down, this can very easily come back down to VWAP. It can come down further. Remember, IPO buyers got in at 7. So we haven't even seen 7. Everybody who's in this nobody lost money on this today nobody should have lost money unless you bought at the debut and kind of panic sold in the opening minutes. I really don't like to sell on day one for a loss, mainly because so many times we see that day 2 rally, and that is no reason to just because even we've seen pretty significant moves down on day 1 that would then come green on day 2, especially, even just with what we saw LCFY. We'll go back to that one. You'll see on day one, LCFY, day one, opened at, opened at 334. If you panic sold down here saying, oh no, can't, it's going to go to one. I mean, how much further from there is it going to go? Even when it dropped out here, you would have made good if you had held on. There was a halt in here and then it gapped up. So I pretty much won't take a loss on day one unless I've really screwed up. I can't say never. Sometimes you make the wrong call and you realize if you're crazy enough to play a biotech, for example, and it drops, and it's not a low float one, it's just not a good idea to play them anyway, but those can just go down and down and down. But otherwise, there's no reason to sell for a loss in here. I hope that most of the people that sold here got IPO shares. And once you get that run, you're in your win. Go enjoy your Friday. I oftentimes will just say, cool, thanks for the money. And that's it's a nice win. Take a couple $100 on a, 10%, 20% win right off the, a few minutes trading, really. What is that? That's about the most, in my opinion, when you see the move, when you have the conviction, it is for me is the ideal trade. It's just, you already know I already made up my mind. My entry was going to be on the debut when I saw that, if I saw it come live above the IPO price. After that, I mean, that's half the trade, where to enter, where to exit. Wow, this has got legs. Look at it go. So we've already seen it take one leg up. We've already seen it take a second leg up. Third leg up is pretty rare. Then again, the market has been hungry for an IPO that ran. This was the one that we were looking for, but trying to hope for that third leg up, to me, is the kind of greedy play that when I do miss it, I'm okay with it. Kind of wish I'd held the second leg. No regrets. Gotta take your profit. So yeah, IVDA. This is one where Allie and I both can attest to learning a little bit of a lesson here. Uplists are not the same as IPOs. Uplists this was an OTC company until today, and they uplisted, and volume is actually, 500,000 shares. I don't believe this float is accurate. They did an 8-for-1 split, and sort of wish Allie was on the call. She's so much better at these, these numbers. But this is not an accurate price move because they do not reflect the. But an 8-to-1, we got in at between $1 and 65 cents, and then it did an 8-for-1 split, which would be $8, and now it's down 45%. So this could rip today, but this is usually what we see, is that these uplistings, that especially if there's if they've done a reverse halt, just leaves so much room for this the share price to fall. I definitely don't buy them on Wearable or in the pre-order. I just don't see the point. Although it would have been the other part of this that seems a little bit dishonest is that they were saying the range would be $7 to $9 per share, and then they decided it would be $4.50. So yeah, hope is not a strategy. No. Opium is not a good drug. It's not a healthy drug for trading stocks. Having said that, IVDA, I'm not going to sell it today. I just do want to give it another day or two to see if it spikes. I will get out at any kind of spike. It wasn't a big enough position to really matter. I took a much bigger position on XPON and got a nice win out of it. I'm still not taking the kind of size plays that I was taking last year, and especially on the debut. I just, first of all, have distributed my kind of portfolio around into some more, stable positions, which turned out to be a good thing when the whole market dropped. I didn't lose 50 or 60% like I would have in the types of plays that I was, the positions I was holding at the turn of the year. I sold most of my portfolio, or a large section of my portfolio, into cash at the end of the year, partly just because what was left was like a lot of bag holding positions. So I was just kind of like, look, do I have any, I went through each position and said, is this something that I believe is going to run in the next, couple of weeks? One of them, for example, MYNZ, I said, no, this is one of those post plays that is supposed to run but hasn't yet. So I held that one, thank God. But a lot of, anything that was left in my portfolio that I hadn't sold for a win, and I was still kind of bag holding at the end of the year, I said, I took a lot of wins this year, and I don't mind adding, taking some losses off the table just to bring my tax basis down a little bit. So sold off in December, avoided being in a lot of the growth stocks that I had been in for the January, February kind of reversion. But before that, last year, taking, my average play was much bigger on the IPOs than this year, partly because the IPOs just haven't run. HOUR and now XPON, these are the two that have really run off the debut. And the good thing about what I really like to see about kind of the day two trade fading out, and are getting kind of overplayed, and XPON running, is now we can really look for some IPOs that could run off the gate. One of the things that I talked about in Monday's show on Benzinga was, if this day two trade starts to look played out throughout the week, then I think we're going to see something finally give us a run. I think that XPON is one that I like for a debut trade. So we got that. It was quite nice to see, and now we are reaping the benefits and hopefully getting into an era where we can see some mainstream IPOs, we can see some low float IPOs run, but this is good. This is fun. I'm not going to stay on here for too long. I got too much other stuff to do, and I think we've kind of, like I said, to me, like, okay, maybe it can bounce off a 10 for a while. Maybe it gets an end of day run, but it's made its 2 runs up. I would not be, even if I was playing this a little bit more loose, I would be out already. But very happy to take profits, very happy to see an IPO run. I hope everybody else took some profits too. Stay on, let's say, for another maybe 30 minutes or so here, see how this plays out. But someone suggested yesterday that I fill some dead space with kind of what's been going on in my experience of leaving Ukraine. Most of you know that I live in Kiev with my wife and daughter. My wife's pregnant, and we left 2 days before the war started. And we first went to Warsaw and realized that it was about to get flooded with, people leaving the country. And the next thing we did was to decide, I'm not sure it was the right call, but Portugal seemed like, one of the least expensive countries to go to, where we could be sort of near the beach, enjoy the weather a little bit, and that's all good. We are near the beach. We're about 600 meters from a very nice beach. It was a little bit cold when we first got here. It's starting to warm up a bit, but we weren't really aware of how difficult it would be to get housing. We have figured something out. It's I guess Portugal's population like triples or quadruples in the summertime. All of Europe goes on vacation here in July and August. So everybody just rents their house out for like 3 months a year at obscene prices, and then shuts down for the winter. And we kind of moved here right as that was happening, and definitely had a bit of a sticker shock when we saw what the rents were asking. So we're dealing with that. The bigger problem is just things like, well, we didn't bring all our baby stuff. We got to buy cribs. We got to buy strollers. We got a baby coming in June. Where are we going to have the baby? Oh, the public hospital. Ugh. public hospital is not quite like the private hospital we had already paid for in Ukraine. We're not getting that money back. So we are, yeah, it's too late to really get insurance. I mean, the expense of it all is kind of the pain in the ass. And then the second one is just the having to go through a lot of bureaucracy. I mean, there's a million forms to fill out, and each form and each thing that you try to even just opening a bank account. So if you go to the bank to figure out what forms you need, and then you go to get those forms and they send you to another place because there's forms you need to get those forms. You kind of do everything in reverse, and then you do everything forward. So that's not all that enjoyable to experience, but you just kind of got to take a deep breath and take it step by step. But yeah, family's been helping us out a little bit. It's nice to see the stock market stop crashing because at the same time we were literally fleeing the war zone, the stock market was crashing, and I'm having to kind of manage my account to stay out of trouble with margins. I do trade on margins. They've gotten me. People say, "Oh, it's really risky." It's like, well, you just got to make sure you have something, some piece of cash in something that's relatively stable. So for me, people can talk trash about QYLD all they want. It was kind of a lifesaver because, first of all, it had a huge end of the year dividend of 50 cents per share. That was really great. And on top of that, it didn't lose that much. It lost like 10% of where I'd always just built a position on dips. So here we see just going to come back over to XPON again. This is sort of one of these moment of truth times in a chart on an IPO where it's sort of in a little bit of a consolidation, but it's above VWAP. RSI is kind of high, and I expect it to sort of level out a little bit here. And if I was still in this, I'd want to consider, I would definitely be considering a stop loss, a pretty tight one. We've got this red candle here at 982. I probably would be thinking, and then you've got, so I'd probably be saying I want to take profits at like 995 if I get stopped out. A lot of times we also just bounce, just quick drop to VWAP and up. But again, you're talking about almost $1 from where it is now to VWAP or lower. And if it can, if it's cup and handles, okay, well, that's great. You set a stop loss and then you can ride it up. So here we get a breakout. Okay, ride it up a little bit. Bring your stop loss up, or just like let it sit there. Maybe this is just one of those crazy stocks where it's Friday, not a lot of, I don't know what else is really moving today. GFAI is up 22. That's been kind of moving quite a bit. That's one that Ali's group is on. It's an LPX move. HTCR, CLVR has been up and down for the last week. BLBX ran pretty hard this morning and in pre on earnings. That was an uplisting that went pretty badly for a while and is now kind of regaining some momentum. But otherwise, if I look over at Benzinga, this will tell me what's WEI, MN, CSSE, HUSN, GFAI, CLVR. So there's some running, but nothing up like 300%. Nothing really catching. I guess WEI is the trade of the day going into, if you'd known about it yesterday, it's one of these weird Chinese stocks. I don't know what the news is here. Just kind of one of these nothing stocks that dipped here, and maybe there's news on it, or maybe just kind of the crazy Chinese shenanigans. No, earnings was before. Just kind of caught random fire, I guess. If somebody knows why, go ahead and throw it in the chat. But otherwise, it's kind of dipping. It's ripped and dipped here daily, but with nothing else really moving, this is gonna, this has gotten attention. Maybe this gets, maybe this gets some end of the day run. So WI, this is just one that has run before. Kind of like one of these money laundering random stocks that just probably priced at IPO with, priced its IPO at $5 and ran. Wouldn't be surprised if it was Bosted or Network One Financial or one of these underwriters that just kind of does weird stuff. But WI, there's got nothing but bag holders up and down this thing, so it'll run. Maybe it's already run. Don't chase it by any means, but this is the only, and this, okay, the volume has exceeded the float. IPOs that run and don't, when there's not a lot else being played on the market will, get attention. So if you're still looking to try to trade this, this is a pretty dangerous place to try to get in. There's a lot of room to come down. But maybe watch this for an end of the day run. If this came down a little bit more and stabilized, maybe at 950, 928, there could be an end of day run on this, but I expect there to be another leg down before it does that. So like I said, after, I usually look for 2 moves up. That's what we've seen here. If it stabilizes and runs again, that's kind of rare. Look at the volume; it's already triple the float. So I kind of tend to see that until the end of the day, this will be the second leg up, will be the high of the day more often than not, unless we get a bit of a consolidation, and then you can look to say maybe it starts moving up again at around 2:30 into 3 o'clock. Maybe that's a setup for an end of the day run. But the day 2 play on this, it could be in effect, but for the most part, day 1 has been the time. And we're seeing what I said, come back to VWAP. What I like about IPO trading is they do start to follow very similar patterns. One of a couple patterns. And one of the patterns that I look for is this double leg up. I got a little bit conservative there. I've just been that way recently. I like kind of very quickly taking profits and putting cash on the table. When I've deviated from that plan, I've put myself in some bag holding positions, which I really hate to be in now because there are so many opportunities being stuck in a position when you can't, carry cash into a high conviction play. It sucks. So I'm going to be looking for the next IPOs on the calendar to at least have the potential to run. If we see some with buzzwords, if we see some with, this was just a buzzword play. People, had good numbers on paper, but I don't think people really dissected the financials. These aren't long-term investments. This will maybe move around for a bit because it's low float, because it has strong IPO, because people will start, anything electric vehicle or it's almost like anything with batteries in it or that are batteries, kind of like it fits that buzzword profile right now. There was a time when anything Bitcoin mining was like, oh yeah, no, that'll run next. We saw a couple of the Bitcoin miner IPOs do pretty well out the gate. EV is one of them. I mean, here's a great example of why you don't hold these long. Don't go, yeah, XPON's going. I mean, maybe it goes to 100. Who knows? It's a crazy market. But it's just not likely. I mean, look at SEV. This is a solar charging a solar charging car, like car with solar panels built into it. I guess they develop the technology they develop is the solar panels, and they release their own car or something. It's like a retrofitted BMW, from what other people said. I did not care deeply enough to dig into it, but this one went off. This was on fire. I mean, they sold they opened the debut at $20. I forget what the IPO price was, like 15 or something, 10. Didn't matter. This was so hot at the time because I think Rivian was like right around the corner. If we go to a triple, I can check Rivian. I like to take notes on everything I discussed. RIVN. Rivian and SEV. So Rivian was like the week before. So this was a week after Rivian. Rivian was November 10th. This was November 17th. And Rivian just went on a massive run. And everyone thought they were buying the next Tesla. It got Jim Cramer's, pump. It was it was the most talked about IPO of that month, for a while. It was pretty much the last huge IPO, I think, of the year, and it went insanely well. So by the time it peaked on the 16th, and the next day was SEV, and because of the hype around it, just went from open of 20 up to 38. I think it ran harder in after hours, and then topped out at 47 the next day. So that was a pretty high conviction trade to begin with, and you had a pretty big win opportunity there. So same thing. I mean, right now we've got lithium as one of the hot topics in the news right now. We have a low float IPO debut, and we got the result. So I will be doing my research. I'll be looking at what's coming up in the world of IPOs, as I do every week. Sign up for the newsletter. Can't imagine that any of you are not in the newsletter. There's 12 of you left watching this. So sign up for the newsletter at IPOwarriors.com and check out what's coming up. I will send out detailed reviews of what traded this week. And just make sure nothing else went live today. What did we have? We had uplisting, QSAM. Let's just see what this did. Did not. Maybe it didn't go today. Or it did. All right. Looks like it. Looks like it did a big reverse split and just hasn't moved very much. I don't like it it's a super low float. It's just not a super low price, but we'll be watching that on Monday. IVDA, we already saw what that was, not a great one. And WLDS doesn't look like wireless devices. It doesn't look like that went live today. And the other one we've been looking at was GS Genius. I don't know what happened to this one. No, never listed. Yeah. It's expected to list last week. Doesn't look like that happened. So maybe we'll see another pushback on this one. I guess they can't. This Genius Group had been originally a Think Equity underwriter play, and or as the underwriter, and then they, I guess, couldn't sell shares to anybody. So Boasted came in, cut the offer in half. I guess they couldn't sell shares to anybody, and now it's supposed to be like, I mean, if Boasted comes with a 3.27 million share IPO of just about anything, you have to be prepared to watch it. That it's based out of Singapore. You want to think it's a stealth IPO like W&W or TIRX or CPOP, SOPA. I mean, any of these kind of weird Asian IPO low floaters that price at 5 or 9 and then just open at like 15 or something. Those are sometimes setups that rip to like 30 or 40 or 70 the next day. So those can be kind of insane. We haven't seen one this year. So GNS didn't look like it, especially as a Think Equity underwriter with mainstream clients. But if Boasted is involved, you got to kind of scratch your head and think maybe it's worth a play. Anyway, IPO market does seem to be getting more fun. Nothing on WLDS. Yeah, nothing. Too bad. I will go ahead and take a sneak peek at the schedule for next week. So I start over. I'm on another monitor right now. I'm going to leave the. Go ahead and go back to a single grid here just to put it front and center. So at this point, yeah, I mean, this, who knows? kind of feels like if there's not much else in play, that this could be the end of day runner. On my watch list, there's not a lot of other stuff happening. So IPO calendar looks like it's blank on NASDAQ. Refresh, make sure I'm not just. Let's see. Nothing. HLP, I don't know who that is. Gotta check Wearable. Got out of there. See if there's anything. XPON, blah, blah, blah. 405, Lightest Technologies Holding Company. It's the only one I'm seeing here. Indian Streaming Telemedicine. Platform Services Company. This is LYT. Platform Services Company. The company provides content streaming, telecasting services to users located all across India. It offers telemedicine services with local assistance through local health centers. Through its platform, customers are connected via customer premises equipment, CPE, devices, and set-top boxes, and have access to multidimensional services, including telemedicine service. So it looks like it's going to be pretty low float, 3.2 million shares. Don't have any details yet about warrants. Haven't looked at who the underwriter is, but not particularly excited about that one. What else do we have? Let's see if IPO Scoop has some. Okay. It's not counting SPACs because I don't see any point of trading IPO debuts for SPACs. MarketWatch doesn't have anything. Nothing on IPO Boutique. IPO Scoop. Nothing on Market Beat. LYT, Lightest Technologies Holding. So I'm showing on stock analysis, but unfortunately, I think this was the IPO that we had to play for the next foreseeable future. So when we do get a break in IPO action, that is often a time for us to be looking for, for things to reset. In other words, the debut rip can come back, the day two run can come back. People kind of like forget about them for a while. It also means we probably won't have an IPO until something strong comes along. So I'm okay with taking a little bit of time off from IPO trading and research. There's plenty of LPX plays in play right now. Hopefully HTCR can get a real run here at some point. But just because there's a break doesn't mean we stop doing the research. And when IPOs do come back in force, we kind of start to be a little bit more confident that when there's a lull in the action, the IPOs that are brave enough to test the waters again are going to come out with some strength. So what I think we see right now is there's been a backlog of IPOs. The market conditions were just so rough that nobody wanted to go live. And in the last 2 weeks, the market has stabilized a little bit. After the war started, after the correction before that. And now a bunch of backlog low float IPOs felt like, okay, well now we can go live. We might have to cut back our expectations a little bit, take a little bit less money, but we can get ourselves listed now and get the clock running on our lockup expirations. We can do a secondary that much faster. So this, I think, backlog has now been cleared out a little bit. There's still a few like, GNS, WLDS, some of these that have been perpetually kind of rescheduled for them to come out. But, I think we kind of got through the backlog for the most part. There's not a second wave really ready to go. And when we do get, the next group on deck, the first ones out the gate will be definitely ones to watch closely. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off now because we've been going for, what is it? An hour? Is that an hour? 11:11. It's now 5:19. Start a little bit early. We've been going for an hour. It's a healthy time. I think at this point we've made our trade. I hope you guys took profits. I hope you have a plan now. If you haven't taken profits, I do believe that this will kind of baseline around here. I think we do have space to come down a little bit more, but we tend to see two moves from here, and unfortunately they are, very opposites, and it maybe even sounds useless to tell you that it's either going to rip or dip. But if you do decide to consolidate, to kind of start building a position here, these can just fall off. This does have the feeling to me, and I think the market wants something to cheer for. So as the word sort of gets spread around, as pumpers continue to tweet about this throughout the day, this could make a new high or come back up to 11. I will most certainly not be playing it. I just, don't want to take a win off the table or turn a win into a loss and then go into a weekend bag holding for day two. That just doesn't sound fun to me. So, good luck everybody who stays in it or decides to trade it further. Otherwise, congratulations on taking profits. I will post a link in the YouTube video of this once it processes and gets published. It'll disappear, I think, for a little while they process it. And if you feel like making a contribution or donation as a thanks for the work I've done here, helping kind of research, educate, hopefully, and guide people through the debut. Not trading advice or anything, of course. I think I just have to say that because some asshole would sue me if I made him lose money or he lost money because he thought I was giving financial advice. But if you want to make a contribution, I appreciate it. I do have a GoFundMe page started, and we'll post the link in the video description once it gets processed and launched on YouTube. So thanks everybody for joining, and I will talk to you all later.